Welcome to the Bitgeek podcast. I'm your host, Ron Avis, and sitting with me on the couch way over to my far left is my co-host,
Nick Wright.
And joining us again is a special guest from the last episode.
Hey guys, I'm Martin Reimer. Glad to be back again.
Yep, good to have you. Yeah. And today we're going to be doing the 12 most important innovations in video games. It's really nice to have you back, Martin.
Yeah,
last week's episode went really, really well, so we thought we would have you back again.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. So, and especially since you have such a, vast, knowledge of gaming, like Nick and I, you go way back. So the topic of 12 best innovations really fits well for you as well. Yep. So I'm glad to have you again. What we're going to do this time is, typically we have a 10 best, and then Nick and I'll split it, but there are so many great innovations. Mm-hmm. We're just gonna try and get it down. We got it down to 12, and even then we're kind of cheating and scrunching some stuff up. We really could probably do 15 or more, but we got it to a lean 12, and we're gonna go in a chronological order.
Yeah. So they're not really ranked by we thought this was most important or whatever.
Yeah, there's no ranking here. Chronological seems to work best. Yeah. Gives us an opportunity to discuss this thing that we love so much. Yeah. And we'll just get things started right off the bat with our first big innovation.
Yeah. So I guess we decided that as we were just kind of jotting down innovations, that a big one for us was in around 1985 or so was the D-pad, on the Nintendo.
Oh yeah.
Because before that, like with the Atari 2600, everything you had the joystick.
Yeah. Which felt very natural at the time. When you get this D-pad and you hold it in your hand, you're like, this feels.
Yeah, it's like
right.
In the arcades, you had the joystick. Atari gave you the joystick.
Yep.
And so now you got the D-pad, and
changed things forever. Yeah. Nobody uses.
Why did we not do this before?
Yeah. Yeah, nobody uses joysticks anymore unless it's Dragon's Lair and you're my brother and you come over and you bitch about it. But the D-pad was a great big deal. It came out in '85, like you said. Another big thing with the NES was the way they handled quality control.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because the video game Crash.
Yeah,
it was a necessity, really. Because I'll let you. I'm interrupting. I'm sorry.
No, you're just adding in. For me, the D-pad was great and huge, but I almost rank this right at the top of important innovations in gaming, because it was something that was necessary to do to regain consumer trust. And you weren't gonna get some piece of junk game released with hardly any effort put into it and capitalized just
like E.T.
Because I joked with you that it's like it's funny that you have to say that making quality games is an innovation.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like that even really makes sense. Like, you should be making quality games anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it absolutely was, because you got those games, like you were saying that E.T. got that bad reputation, and there's everybody in that day had to make a video game. There was like the Kool-Aid Man video game, and there was a video game for like a dog food brand. It was like Chase the
like
Chuck
Alpo.
Wagon. Yeah, and this just. Everybody was throwing out video games, and we're kind of seeing that trend again, I think, with the mobile games, where
the App Store
definitely.
is just a wasteland of junk.
Well, and I think that's why in iOS 11 Apple decided to change that up, right? So they've got kind of that curated now.
Yeah.
So it's like
smart.
You've got like the top games of the day, right? So you're not scrolling through just garbage.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, Nintendo said, hey, we're gonna put this fence up. You're not getting past this fence. You can only develop a handful of titles a year. Everything's gonna go on our cartridges. Everything was very uniformed and done their way, and they were very strict. And even though it ruffled some feathers, it's really a practice that's been adopted in all of console gaming. Rather than putting out 10, 12, 15, as much as you can, you spend all your time and money on a handful of titles, make them really good, hopefully, and then put it out. People will buy those games. They'll buy a lot of that game and not just have a few purchases of many titles, like a Shotgun Blast. They may buy a few of this one or a few of that one.
Well, and I think also it kept those games exclusive to Nintendo, right? I mean, there was a lot of behind-the-scenes legal constraints, right, that a lot of the developers and publishers weren't happy about.
Yeah.
But, with that seal, it kept it on that platform, right?
Yeah, true. I think they had to sign contracts and stuff. And there were all kinds of stipulations, too. Like, I think we talked about it once, too, Nick, where if you released a game for the NES, you weren't allowed to release that same game as it is on another console. Like, you had to reinvent the game. Yeah. Which is why, like, versions of Batman on the Genesis was different than, like, on the NES.
Yeah.
The version of Aladdin was different on, I mean, there were reasons why they were different.
I think it was
games.
actually a different developer in that with Aladdin.
Yeah, it might have been. But it's really interesting how companies try to get around it, too. Like, with Konami, they were releasing games left and right. They came up with their own, like, shadow company, like Ultra, and released 4 or 5 games under Ultra too.
Yeah.
And some of those games were on the fringe of not being good. Yeah, so it was there for a reason. There was a lot of thought behind it, and it saved video gaming. Yeah. Brought it back from the dead.
I remember Ultra was kind of like that name, like Ultra.
Right. Weren't really sure what it was.
Well, the Turtles game got released under Ultra, and that's the only reason it was even on my radar.
Yeah.
But I think there was there were other games. I remember you would get an NES game. It would oftentimes come with like a poster, and there would be a couple of titles released at that same time, or maybe off in the future.
It did have those titles I was interested in, but at the same time, it was like something about the quality though that I was like, oh well, it's
and that's
Ultra,
because they were stretching themselves out a little bit.
Yeah.
Acclaim was kind of guilty of doing stuff like that too. But I mean, like, imagine a world where you have LJNs and Oceans just like chunking, just pooping out games. It's not good games. So, for me, as big as the D-pad was, that Nintendo quality, even though the seal itself didn't mean anything, the real purpose of the seal was to just prevent companies from developing as many titles as they wanted to.
Yeah.
Man, but you mentioned the thing about the exclusive games, to the consoles, like they're making these contracts and whatnot. And I remember like the big deal with Capcom that they were having Street Fighter 2 on the Super Nintendo, and it was exclusive on the Super Nintendo. And then like behind the scenes, they're gonna bring it on the Genesis, but they can't have Street Fighter 2 because it's exclusive to the Nintendo. So okay, well we'll give you guys Street Fighter 2 Champions Edition, and so they're all excited about that. Like, yes, we're getting the newest one. But then in the arcade, Turbo Street Fighter 2 now is already coming out. And so Super Nintendo's going to get Turbo Street Fighter 2.
And then Super.
And so
after
now,
that.
and so Genesis isn't happy about that, but their version's not out yet. So they get Street Fighter 2 Special Champions Edition, which has really Turbo is like included. It was actually, and I didn't really remember that at the time, but it was really 2 Street Fighter games in one. You could, in the menu, and I went back and I played it the other day just because I was kind of reminiscing about it. And it was actually 2 games. You could in the title screen, you could pick either Champions Edition or Turbo, and you could either play like one version or the other.
Wow.
It wasn't perfect. It was Genesis, obviously.
Yeah.
Because they
did what they could.
Things like, because how there were background, like, color differences, like, between Champions Edition and Turbo. Like, it had, like, the sunset, like, on Guile's stage, because I was noticing that it was, like, the Turbo colors. It wasn't, like, the Champions Edition, like, version of that background.
Yeah.
When you selected one or the other. And so, I mean, it was just little things like that. But it kept the moves, like Chun-Li would have her fireball and things like that. They actually had the Turbo Street Fighter 2 moves in Special Champions Edition. And then Super Nintendo got Turbo Street Fighter 2, and then they both ended up getting Super Street Fighter 2. It was crazy mess.
Yeah, back when the Sega and Nintendo when they were big rivals, the great console wars. But that's our number one. We shoved a couple in there, but they were both huge, really, really big. Controllers to this day still have D-pads, and people still.
Except for the Switch.
Except for the Switch.
In spirit, it's there. It feels like a D-pad to your thumb when you're like
Nintendo betrayed us.
It was yours.
And and everybody cries about like the Xbox 360's D-pad. I think nobody.
Well, there for sure been like better versions of it.
Right.
But I mean, they're at least still around. So that's our number one. Nick, what's our number two?
All right, yeah. So number two, portable gaming. Like when the Game Boy came out in 1989.
Game Boy,
Game Boy was huge.
Yeah.
I remember summer of '89 getting my Game Boy, and then that little game Tetris came.
Oh yeah.
A game I never knew that I wanted so bad.
Yeah.
Such an addictive game.
My first memory really of the Game Boy, I'm looking like through a magazine, and like I see a picture of Super Mario Land.
Yeah.
And I'm just amazed at just the thought of being able to play Super Mario Brothers anywhere.
Yeah. That was why I wanted a Game Boy, was the Super Mario Land.
But that game was so strange.
It was.
I mean,
it was not developed by Nintendo either, really? Or was it? Weren't they kind of like ported or developed by another company?
I'm not sure.
I thought I maybe read that somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not positive.
Sorry if I'm
on that
wrong.
one.
I think it might have been a developer within Nintendo, but I can't remember who it was. But.
You know what? I'm probably just thinking like Miyamoto didn't have anything to do with it.
No, he did not.
Well, yeah, that's
he did
true.
not.
That's probably what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's true. And there was it's very different than the others. Like Martin was saying, because it wasn't Princess Peach, it was Daisy, but she looked exactly like Peach.
Yeah.
There were differences like with because there were characters that looked like Koopa Troopas, but if you jumped on them, they turned into a bomb.
Yeah. And there was the shoot 'em up levels too.
Yeah, you
that was riding like a submarine.
Yeah. And then just the feel of the jumping and movement was just not Super Mario Brothers. It was very different.
Yes.
It was the Golden Coins game, the Mario 2, that really felt very Super Mario like. That I think that's when they kind of got back on.
It was kind of like a Mario 3 kind of hybrid type thing. Yeah.
But back to the portability of the games, like I remember just like imagining being able to ride in the backseat of a car and play video games.
Oh yeah, it was huge.
That
it changed the family trips,
but only during the day.
Only during the day.
Well, no, I had a little add-on with a magnifier and a light, but it was still hard to see with that little light.
Eric had that whole thing.
Oh my god! Light boy.
Yeah, it was a light boy.
Yeah, the light boy.
And then there was the worm.
The
worm. Remember that?
Joystick thing.
Oh yeah, there was like a little worm light.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember a light.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were so many add-ons for that Game Boy.
Gosh,
and the Game Boy lived for a long time.
Man, and it was huge.
Yeah.
It was really big.
Yeah, and it changed iterations.
It was physically big too. I mean, it was massive.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was like a big brick.
Well, that battery pack thing was, it took how many batteries? I guess, was it only 4 nowadays, or was it more than that?
I think it was 4, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like 4, I think.
Yeah.
I just remember that battery pack being real big and chunky.
The Game Gear 8 batteries.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
that thing
it really did.
At least it had a color screen though.
Yeah.
But bringing
if you could see anything on it.
The Game Boy was so big, and nobody ever challenged Nintendo too. Like everybody had their portable versions of their system.
Yeah.
Sometimes, most times, superior to Game Boy. The Game Gear was color. The TurboGrafx that what do they call it? The
Express?
Turbo Express.
Express was a TurboGrafx. It was a 16-bit.
That was amazing.
And you could play the same games.
Yep, the
on the
Hue cards just
TurboGrafx
will go right
16.
from
and it had the little TV tuner.
TV tuner, right.
On it.
And and then on and on. But Nintendo just kept chunking along with that little black and white. They would refine it.
Yeah.
They'd make it slimmer. They'd give it a backlight eventually.
They teased you. They were like, they've gone color. The Game Boy Color comes out, but it's still the black and white Game Boy. It's just a color case.
Like, it's gonna be color finally. No. But you just meant the Game Boy itself is color.
Yeah.
But I mean, people bought them. They just bought them in typical Nintendo.
Yeah.
I mean,
It was cool though that you could take your Game Boy game, stick it in there, and now you had at least a color palette to it, right?
Yeah.
That was pretty neat.
Speaking of, this is not portable, but remember that thing that you could get for your Super Nintendo? You plug in, you put in like a Game Boy
Oh, the Game
game.
Boy Player, Super Game Boy Player,
Yeah. That was great. And
it had a custom theme around it and
Mm-hmm.
everything,
And there were like color palettes built into it.
Oh, yeah.
So games you'd never seen in color before.
Yeah, so like that Donkey Kong game was built really for that.
Oh, yeah, that's the one they always pushed. Yeah.
But yeah, portability was huge. I mean, and it's only since taken off even more with like mobile gaming and stuff. But the Game Boy, I mean, props to Game and Watch. I guess they were like in Tiger Electronics. Those guys. But Game Boy was a legit console, like in your hand. I mean, you know, it was
had cartridges that you could swap out. You know, the LCD games. That was it. You know.
Yeah, I have lots of great memories, just like lying in my bed playing a Game Boy with whatever kind of light I can
trying to adjust it.
But yeah, portable gaming, that's for sure a big innovation.
Yeah, and it would get blurry too, like as you
move.
Because if you were standing still,
it wasn't even black and white too.
You could
it was like
see it.
pukey green.
As soon as you start running, it's like kind of blurry and you can't see it as well.
So that's our number 2, portable gaming, and specifically the Game Boy.
Yeah.
The Game Boy was, and it's still, I mean, there's, the DS and stuff like that. But Game Boy, Nintendo in general, and Nintendo has got a lot of these innovations, by the way. You can give Nintendo flack for a lot of things for good reason, but they always are pushing, their little gimmicks. Sometimes they hit big, sometimes they're fun for the moment, and they just reveal themselves to be the novelty they are, but, portable gaming, still a big part of our life.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, what's number 3?
Number 3, we're into the Super NES era, 1991. Had shoulder buttons on the controllers. Everybody's got like a shoulder button, a trigger, or something on the controllers now.
Big innovation. Gave you access to more, inputs. You have more inputs for your games.
Yeah.
Great for the arcade conversions, like Street Fighter 2.
Yeah, can you imagine trying to play Street? I mean, it's awkward to do it that way. But
well,
at least
like
you have
on the Genesis with the 3 buttons.
The Genesis version, because they came out with a special 6-button controller. Otherwise, what you had to do, because it had the 3 buttons, you had to hit the start button to toggle between.
Really?
Punch
I did not know that.
They're all 3 buttons are
my
punch,
God.
and then you hit start. Now they're all kicks.
You
want to go back to punch? Hit start again.
Because they did have that 6-button joystick. I never even thought about playing it.
If you play it with a 3-button controller, like the original Genesis,
that's horrible.
I would have just assumed it wouldn't even let you play the game with it.
It's terrible.
Wow.
Big thing for shoulder buttons, but that's not all Super Nintendo.
Yeah, so the guys that were playing the Special Champions Edition and laughing at the Nintendo that, hey, we've got Turbo and Champions Edition before you got it. Well, look at you.
I hope those guys had 6-button controllers. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Wow. So what else did Super Nintendo do?
And also, at that same time, Mode 7... the graphics where it was kind of
Mario Kart.
Yeah,
that was huge.
Kind of that rotation kind of look.
Yeah, the Mode 7 first gave you that illusion of
kind of 3D-ish looking.
Yeah,
it gave you that illusion of 3D, but then the Super Nintendo pushed it even further, and you really got into the infancy of 3D gaming with the FX chip.
Because then a few years later, I think it was around 1993, like Star Fox.
Polygons was the new buzzword, and as big a deal as Mode 7 was, and they touted all of their games from Mode 7, the FX chip was like a true step forward in 3D gaming. And we owe a lot. I mean, because everything's still in 3D nowadays, except there's 2D games, but they're considered throwbacks. Retro gaming. But we're still playing in 3D, and we should be, because we are we are 3D. We're not just a flat surface.
Yeah.
And by giving us the FX chip, and the thing about the Super Nintendo is it lived for quite a while too, but they kept surprising us with new technologies. Like every now and then, they would just give us a new chip, and they would offer up, a new cool thing, like they did for Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
We talked about
how revolutionary that Donkey Kong Country looked.
Yeah. And they squeezed a lot of cool things out of that Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
And but that's our number 3 innovation is the shoulder buttons, the FX chip, and Mode 7.
Yeah.
A lot of
Awesome.
buzzwords, assuredly, but I mean, you can't discount how important those things were.
Oh yeah.
Still relevant to this day.
All right, so number 4.
Number 4, what do you got?
All right, we're saying the CD-ROM, which we're saying around 1992, like for the Sega CD, because I guess that's the first, console that had CD-ROM.
Right. TurboGrafx
At least the
had
add-on systems, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. TurboGrafx had something. It came out, I guess, technically before, but Sega CD, I think, brought it more to the forefront.
Okay.
Right.
And then, obviously, the next gen of consoles was all CD, except for Nintendo 64. They were running out on cartridges.
Right.
But aside from that, in portables, every system all the way up until, again, the Switch was CD based.
Yeah.
So, yeah, can you imagine when you went to the CD, you had much more space. You didn't have to fit it all in a cartridge.
Mm-hmm.
So suddenly you can have better music. You could have that full motion video, which was real popular.
Larger games.
Much bigger games. Especially when you expanded it to like DVD and Blu-ray.
Oh yeah.
To this day, like even like a PlayStation 4 is putting out games on Blu-ray discs. And you just couldn't do that with a cartridge. It's too expensive.
Yeah.
So, CD-ROM technology was really, really big. And therefore, it was like a real big buzzword for a while. Even like Nintendo. I mean, the CD-ROM comes into a big, it plays a big factor because of what almost was. And because of the failed partnership with Nintendo and Sony,
Oh, yeah.
Then they spawned the PlayStation, which is massive.
Yeah.
Bigger than Nintendo, bigger than anybody right
Yeah.
now. So, yeah, but when I think of CD in those early times, I think of the Sega CD, and the big selling point were those two things: full motion video and music.
Yeah.
All the games suddenly just had like CD quality sound, which was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was a big sell, right?
It was,
because that was the whole point of CD at the time, was that you could get higher fidelity audio. Right?
And I had to make my music videos with Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
Exactly. Yeah.
That was key.
Well, Night Trap.
Oh, yeah.
Don't forget about that.
But in all seriousness, Dragon's Lair.
Dragon's
Yeah,
Lair.
that's true.
It was the first time you could seriously get a legit port of Dragon's Lair, which was a Laserdisc, which was in arcades. We're not really talking about arcade innovations.
Yeah.
But CD-ROM, guys.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and the other interesting thing with CD-ROM is, since Nintendo for the N64 went with cartridge, with Squaresoft, Final Fantasy VII was originally being developed for Nintendo 64.
Ooh, yeah.
But then they
Big turning
realized,
point for them,
they realized they couldn't fit it all on a cartridge. And then with all the CD development for PlayStation, they shifted that. So ever since then, SquareSoft and now Square Enix, the Final Fantasy series has not typically been on Nintendo systems.
Yeah, they were a Nintendo. Yeah. They were mostly on Nintendo.
Yeah, they were Nintendo exclusives.
Sony. Imagine how things could have been if Nintendo was able to get their hands on Final
If they would have
Fantasy.
gone with the CD.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
But I mean, they didn't. And remember how expensive those cartridges were.
Yeah.
They really should have just gone with CD.
Yeah.
But load times was a major issue with CDs.
Was it? I don't know.
It seems like there were. I mean, I guess it just depended on the game.
Yeah, we were all kind of used to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember it like at the time, like when Nintendo 64 came out, it's like, well, it's cartridge, everything else is CD, but you gotta wait 30 seconds, for that to load, and this pops right up. Like when Mortal Kombat Trilogy was on like the PlayStation and Nintendo 64, and it was a faster loading, and there were like different things like Shang Tsung, when he would morph into different characters. Like on PlayStation, he couldn't morph into just everybody. He could only morph into like the ninjas that were all just palette swaps of like basically the same character.
Yeah.
But Nintendo 64, he could morph into anybody because of the faster load times on the cartridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the advantage, and that's why you paid more money.
Yeah.
All right, so that's CD-ROM. What's next on our list?
Number 5, the ESRB ratings, 1994. Speaking of Mortal Kombat and Night Trap,
Exactly.
Not a sexy pick, but a very, very, very important innovation. Around that time, it seemed like it was the youngsters versus the old people. Like the crotchety people in Senate and Congress. They were like against video games. It seemed like always like there was always an uphill battle for like young people to convince older people that video gaming was not a bad thing. And when Mortal Kombat came out, that didn't help our cause. We all wanted to play it, but there had to be something that would allow the gaming industry to push forward. But there was absolutely nothing like the movie ratings board to prevent young people from buying these games and being exposed to spleens being ripped out through their mouths. So all the companies got together and they said, all right, well, we're going to come up with this ratings board to keep the government off our back and essentially let the gaming companies govern it without assistance from the actual federal government.
Right.
So when they came out with like the M14 or whatever it is, now since like gaming was becoming so much more realistic and the violence was so much more realistic, they could continue to push those boundaries without fear of like the government stepping in and saying, okay, well, you can't govern yourselves. We're shutting it down. This is not suitable for children.
Yeah.
And I remember working at like a Babbage's at that time when that was going on, and people had to show IDs.
Wow.
And I remember like some parents being upset. They would send their kid in to buy the game.
Yeah, I had forgotten about that. That's right. And they're like, I can't sell you
sell
that
this to
game.
you. I got into arguments with parents. I'm like, this is for your own, like, you're not doing a very good job parenting, obviously, on your own. So, like, we have to help. Step in and say, and I personally don't care if the kid plays it. Mm-hmm. But, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we need this rating system. Because little Timmy doesn't really need to be playing this.
Yeah, parents need to know what's going on.
Right. And like parents are as aware as they are with movies. And like there's always going to be parents that just don't care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she was just more upset with being inconvenienced having to come into the store by herself.
Right.
But yeah, that ratings board was just a massive, big deal. It kept the government out of, saying what could and couldn't be censorship. I mean, it's basically what I'm boiling down to.
Mortal Kombat on the Super Nintendo, they watered it down because this wasn't in effect yet, and due to that, everybody claims that the Genesis version is better.
Yeah.
Because they let in a secret code to allow it, even though obviously, you look at the two games, and the Super Nintendo version is better. Technically, it's better,
but
it's a better
down.
game, but it was watered down, and blood is what they wanted.
Yeah.
And it's a fun game.
And that's what sold that game, right?
Yeah, that is what Mortal Kombat
for the
is.
edginess of it, the violence, and I understand why people would say, "Oh, yeah, the Genesis version was superior," but it's just Sega was more willing to push those boundaries. That's how they got ahead of Nintendo.
Right.
That was their whole strategy. Nintendo was still like coming back on like, well, we have certain standards.
Right.
And to this day, they still are kind of that way. We're not doing a 10-to-1 type deal, but I feel like it's really high.
Yeah.
And it's not a technical innovation, but it told the government to stay out.
It saved the industry, I think.
Yeah, I really believe it saved the industry, and if not saved it, it kept them from being stunted.
Yeah.
All that momentum that they had during that time period would have for sure it would have stopped it.
Definitely.
And so anyways, so that's our next one. What's our 6?
So number 6, analog controls.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now we're getting back into the more technical.
1995. Now, and I don't know if technically that's the first analog controls. Because I guess you can say like the paddle, like on the Atari 2600, that's analog.
Yeah, right.
But
what is analog? Yeah.
But on the what was it? Sega Saturn, Nights into Dreams.
Yeah.
It came out with that new controller with that analog thumbstick.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love that controller.
Ever since then, there's been an analog controller on every system.
Oh yeah.
Mario was the first to really utilize it the best, I think.
I think so too. Yes.
But Knights.
I didn't really get into
right.
I didn't really get into Knights like how
It was supposed to be a big deal for Sega. They really,
I think
really
the
pushed
game
it hard.
itself, personally, it was okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the controller was more interesting, right?
Yes.
I bought it for the controller,
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt right. That again, it was like the D-pad. Like suddenly we have this new way to play games,
Right.
Yeah.
and it felt just right. But
Right.
then when you got the Mario, the way the little subtle movements
But
that were
yeah.
now possible.
Fine.
Mario
for that,
Mario
yeah.
had all those nuances where you could tiptoe, walk,
Yeah.
full run,
Not really.
just with the stick. Not because you used to, you'd have to like hold a button to run, and now you can just tilt, gradually and further.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And then you later on would get like dual analog, which kind of brought like first person gaming.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able, because I mean, like GoldenEye was fun and all, but it was really crappy to control with.
Yeah.
With dual analogs, now all of a sudden you're up to speed with computer games.
Yeah.
like
You had
first
PC
person.
ports. Yeah.
So analog controllers were a huge deal. It was like a quality of life type invention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't know you needed it, and you actually got it and played it, and you're like, I can't go back to D-pad anymore.
Yeah.
Unless it's like a retro type game.
Yeah.
So
Right.
imagine life before analog. So, all right. So that's number 6. What's number 7?
Number 7, also 1995, E3.
E3, man. For a guy like me who's always on the websites every day, reading the news, like I'm your own personal E3 consultant, it seems like a lot of times. Like I'll get into the chat and be like, oh man, they just announced this game, and this game looks great.
Yeah. Lately, I don't really follow it, but back then, I mean,
Oh yeah.
best thing ever.
E3 was a big deal because it
E3
kinda,
season.
it used to be the Consumer Electronics Show, and it was very closed doors, only for media or buyers. It served a purpose, but with E3, they made it more of a spectacle. It attracted the attention of, your average gamers, like your day-to-day gamers. And Martin here
Yeah.
has actually been to E3
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah. I've been to E3 in 1999, and then in 2002. So 2002 was involved with the America's Army PC game launch. So part of the kind of press pool
Yeah.
for both those. So I can tell you, I mean, the booths at both those events were immense, huge. I mean, they just spent probably hundreds of thousands of dollars on those booths for press alone.
Probably the majority of their budget for the year.
As far as huge marketing budgets
Yeah.
on those, definitely, yeah. But very, very exciting times. I mean, that was, if you had a new game, that's when you announced it, right?
Yeah. That's where the new stuff down the pike was coming. So like, tell us, when you were there to work, were you able to get around and like play some of the games?
Oh yeah, yeah.
What was it like in terms of the weights?
Well, back then the weights weren't too bad. So in '99, I remember distinctly Quake on Dreamcast. So they'd have an area where they had all the network Dreamcast systems on Quake. Mm-hmm. That was super cool.
Yeah.
Sony was pretty big at that time. Mm-hmm. They had, I think Tony Hawk had just come out at that point.
As PlayStation, is it 1
the original
or 2?
PlayStation. Yeah, this is the original PlayStation. He was actually there during that E3. It was just more of a spectacle, right? Because they were trying to get the press to the booth. So the more, popular people you had there, the better it was.
And speaking of spectacles and just getting people to the booths, booth babes.
Yeah.
Remember how that was such a huge thing back in the day?
I definitely have some photos of those. Probably won't be sharing
Probably
those.
don't have access to those anymore.
You won't have access to those.
Yeah, well, out of respect for your wife, we won't be sharing those.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember like what a huge deal that was.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, definitely. By the time 2002 came around, that was everywhere.
Yeah.
I know later on they got a lot of flack for that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's not something you'd be proud to talk about anyways. Kind of was like, I can't believe we objectified people quite like that. So 2002, what was the big thing?
I'm trying to think what the big thing was at
Was
that
that
point.
GameCube around that time?
I think GameCube was there. Age of Empires had just come out on PC. I think Xbox was definitely hitting pretty high at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that on our list is was around 2002, so we'll get to that.
Yep.
Would you go back?
Definitely, but the way things are, promoted online now, it's almost like you're there now, right?
Yeah.
And the way like Best Buy, Nintendo Best Buy, you kind of get to play the games there, kind of beat the crowds and just, just tune in online, which is what I do now.
You get like the live coverage online.
Yeah. Well, in the best thing about E3 now is the press conferences. Each of the big three or whatever, they have a day. Mm-hmm. To where they get to own the news cycle. And they, Nintendo gets up there, they talk about all their big things, what's coming up, and Sony has their big show, and Microsoft has their big show. And it's the best it's ever been, and you're not even like really playing the game. You're seeing like a highlight reel, like a sizzle reels of all the stuff that's coming out. Yeah. And sometimes you'll get a really nice long demo like they did for Spider-Man this year.
Yeah. I mean, the coolest thing about going every day at E3 was they had what was called the Game Daily, which is like a really thick magazine from like the announcements. So it was in that magazine. And you just pick that up and
Do
see.
you still have anything like?
I don't know if I have any of those. I'd have to go back through it, but I think I probably tossed most of those.
Swag was another big thing too. Like people would talk about coming back with like armfuls of swag.
Yeah, there was definitely swag. I had some E3 shirts. I think I tossed out recently. They were kind of old, but. Yeah. I had an E3 bag, I think, still.
Yeah,
up
like
until
some
recently.
kind of satchel or something.
Yeah, an E3 satchel.
Yeah, I remember that when we went to school.
Well, E3 now is different, obviously, than what it used to be. Now it's actually open to the public, and anyone can go. Like they charge like whatever amount of money, $150.
Wow.
And the lines are really super long, from what I understand. And I've just heard that people who have went last year. It's like it's not what you feel like. Like everyone's like, I'm glad I went, and I would go back, but it's just not what it was.
Yeah.
And I guess really it's just because there just weren't as many people.
Yeah.
Now they're opening it up to like thousands of people. Like obviously you're not going to get to see everything.
Right.
You got to plan it out, pick one or two things, and be prepared to wait in some really long lines.
It was definitely much more of a trade show, right?
Yeah. For a long
very
time.
Closed door. Yeah.
And then they stopped doing E3 for like a year. That wasn't even around
I think
anymore.
they did. Yeah.
So I understand why they're doing what they're trying to keep E3 relevant and alive, and I hope it always is, because it's truly one of my favorite times of the year.
Oh yeah.
When summer comes rolling around, right around June, I know like as a gamer, that's the big thing.
Oh yeah.
E3.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
Yeah, that's number 7. What's next, Nick?
So number 8, we were talking about the VMU, like with the Dreamcast. Mm-hmm. Which then also kind of led into just having kind of that dual screen experience, like with Nintendo DS, because like the VMU, like it would.
Now, what is the VMU? What was it for?
Well, it's a memory card for the Dreamcast, but it looked like a little Game Boy. Like if you took it out of the controller,
right?
And it looked like a little Game Boy. It had a little screen, and you put it in the controller, and the controller had like a little window.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
had a D-pad on it.
It did, yeah. And I think 2 buttons.
D-pad.
I think it had
two buttons, and then I think it had like a little start button or something on it.
Yeah.
It really did look like a little Game Boy.
It sure did, yeah.
I've got a couple of those somewhere.
Yeah.
I have to pull out. But and it would on some games, because I remember like on Resident Evil Code Veronica, that was what you looked at to know like how your life bar was. Mm-hmm. And so it didn't take up space on the screen like with a HUD or anything, because you could just look down there and you could kind of see that little heartbeat kind of thing.
I remember for the NFL 2K games, like you could pick plays on it.
Yeah.
So if you were doing 2-player, like in the for a long time you had in Madden especially, you'd have like a top part and a bottom part, and you were both picking your plays. And you couldn't help your eye wander. You're one of those 3 players are getting picked.
Yeah.
So with that VMU, you could look down at your controller and have a little privacy, and wandering eyes can't look over. Yeah. You could pick and play, and it really, it took that game up another notch as far as realism goes.
And I think Sonic on Dreamcast had some kind of Tamagotchi game on there where you could grow like one of the KO creatures. Yeah. So you could kind of take that with you, as long as the battery lasted. The battery life was horrible on those.
I didn't never really mess with those things, but I do remember that.
Yeah.
What type of battery did it use? I don't even.
It was one of those D-cell.
Those little round flat batteries.
The lithium type.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. But the other thing you mentioned was actually the much bigger deal in my opinion is that second screen experience. That whole thing.
Yeah, definitely.
DS's or like the Wii U pad, and really enhancing, giving you a little bit extra, like
Game and Watch.
Game and Watch, the OG second screen experience. But you had like in theory double the real estate.
Yeah.
Like I liked the games where you'd be on the top and then you'd go down. Like Bomberman was a cool game for the DS, I remember, because like you'd have this whole area up top and you could go through like little pipes or whatever, and then there's a whole screen down at the bottom with action going on.
Well,
and sometimes they would just be like maps, which were
Yeah,
great
well,
quality
that's what
of
I was
life.
gonna say. I like the ones because, like, those you're talking about. It just kind of just extends the screen.
It extends.
Yeah.
the screen,
But I like the ones where, like you're talking about for the sports game, that you have like information like down below that you
some
can
kind
do
of
things.
strategy or something.
Yeah, some kind of strategy, or maybe like a map, like for Zelda or something, where you're not taking up, real estate on the screen with some kind of a HUD or something, that you can just have, the game, and then you have the extra things, menus and whatever down on the second screen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I liked it for. And
I still need to play the Wind
often-
Waker on the Wii U because I've heard that comes in really
it
handy.
utilizes it very well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
'cause-
imagine what Breath of the Wild would have been like if they had, gone ahead
I
and
know.
included that.
Yeah.
They took it out for Switch purposes.
Especially on the Wii U,
map
I
would have
feel
been
like that
awesome.
was like so
Oh, yeah.
underused. Like they could have done so much more with that,
Yeah.
and they didn't.
That was a letdown.
But a very, very good idea, and something that Nintendo. I mean, I'm kind of sad it's going away.
Yeah.
Second screen experiences, I think they're not long for this world as far as gaming goes. But hopefully they can find a way to keep using it.
I don't see why they don't do things where, because everybody's got, their iPhone or whatever. Everybody's got a smartphone. That it doesn't, the game won't tie into your phone, and you can use your phone as that second screen.
Yeah,
I don't know why
that
they
would
don't
be cooler than
utilize
like
that.
voice chat, where you got to use your
Yeah.
phone. For
Oh, like
voice
on
chat.
Splatoon for Switch, where you've got a companion app where you can purchase things.
Oh,
and things
I
like that.
downloaded that app, and I haven't ever done anything
Oh,
yeah.
with it.
It seems kind of garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Almost
'cause-
like an afterthought. Right?
Well,
Yeah.
for that you're supposed to. It's supposed to be for like the voice chat. Which,
That's what it's.
Yeah,
Nobody
why
wants
would
to
you
use
do
it.
that?
Yeah, I don't
understand.
People keep holding out hope that Nintendo, does something to include it in the system.
Is there not a microphone in the Switch?
I think the main
there's a
issue.
speaker. I don't think there's a microphone.
Oh, really? There's no
Yeah,
microphone?
I don't know if there is.
Wow.
The thing I always hear is like
strange.
it's the processing. Like there's just not enough memory to push. There's not any more memory. Like they're utilizing everything they can to make it play Breath of the Wild and Splatoon.
Wow.
And there's just not enough. Like as sure as like the sun comes up in the morning, there'll be like an XL version of the Switch come out, and then that'll
I
be the
know.
one that
Right,
has like
right.
voice chat built in. Nintendo, they're gonna start iterating versions of the Switch.
Like the new
eventually.
3DS.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So and when they do, that's fine. I'll sell the old one and buy the new one because I'm a sucker
Yeah.
for that kind of thing. I do it with my iPhones and stuff already. That second screen experience was a really, really cool quality of life thing.
Oh,
and hopefully, like with like tablets or iPhones, they can find a way to keep using it the way it was originally intended to be used.
Yeah, and let us, be able to link in with the devices we already have and not have to buy like some extra thing.
That would be a very Nintendo thing to do, wouldn't it?
Right.
Make us buy an accessory. Not just Nintendo, all video game consoles are guilty of that kind of thing. Cool. All right, well, that was number 8. What's our number 9?
Number 9, also 1998, Rumble. Like the Rumble Pack.
Oh,
like,
the Rumble
what
Pack.
was it?
Yeah.
Star Fox on Nintendo 64?
Yeah,
was
Star
that
Fox.
the first Rumble Pack?
And come to
Yeah,
think of
it
it, this
came
is
with
the
that.
second major innovation where Star Fox was like the pushing driving force.
Yeah,
That's true, yeah.
Because the FX chip. So
Yeah.
Star Fox in the Rumble Pad. You're right.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, for Star Fox, it was just pretty much, you're getting hit and it's shaking.
Yeah.
But I remember in Zelda, the Ocarina of Time, where it would shake for things like if you got like near a spot where you could bomb, like it would kind of vibrate a little
Like
bit.
a hint.
Like,
Oh,
give you
nice,
a little
yeah.
hint, yeah. And so it wasn't like a necessity for that game, but if you had it, it would enhance.
Subtle little enhancements like that are where you really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I like it in modern day gaming where like if you're doing a racing game, like the way that if the car's
you
revving a
kinda-
certain way.
Oh yeah.
Go like off course, and it's like
Hitting a
Yeah, like-
wall or something.
Yeah. It really shines in a game like a racing game,
yeah.
like a Forza
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's really good. And of course, like Nintendo is really pushing their HD Rumble or whatever they're calling it with the Joy-Cons. I still have really yet to experience anything major with it.
You can kind of tell it's a little bit stronger, but I don't know. I don't get it.
They
too
made a
much.
huge deal about the
Yeah,
HD.
I don't know.
Well, because they had the marbles or whatever, and the guy would hold it up and like, "There's 3 balls in here," And unless you bought 1-2
Sure.
Switch, you really couldn't. I mean, that's all
Yeah.
1-2 Switch was, which is why it should have been packed in. By the way,
Oh,
Yeah,
it was a
definitely.
good demo to show off the hardware. It's stupid. That HD Rumble, or not HD Rumble, just Rumble packs in general.
Right.
I'm glad they're built into the controllers now. You don't have to like load it in
Yeah.
like the Nintendo 64.
Like
It
Metal
was
Gear
huge.
Solid. Metal
It was
Gear
pretty
Solid
big.
on the PlayStation really took advantage of that.
Oh, okay, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, was huge on that one.
And I love it when they use it for things like detection and like a heartbeat or something to kind of
Yeah.
let you know when things are getting more tense.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rumble. For me, when I think of innovations, it's not something that springs to mind right away. But if you really think about it, when it's done right in those subtle ways, like imagine I bet if you were to take Rumble away from controllers nowadays, you would notice it.
Yeah.
So I like it when they use it for like environmental, like subtle things.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's definitely something that was introduced at one point, and then it's the norm. That
Oh, yeah.
they all come that way now.
And I'll give you an example of when you notice it. When I play like games like Destiny, when the battery's about to die, one of the things it does is it cuts the rumble.
Yeah.
And when you're shooting, you don't feel that
yeah.
feedback anymore.
Yeah.
You notice it
And
right
I'm like,
away.
wait, what's wrong?
Yeah.
Oh, my
Oh, my
battery must
battery's
be
about to
low.
die,
Yeah.
So,
I know exactly what you're talking about there. Yeah.
So that happens in a lot of games. So, big props to the Rumble pad.
yeah.
That's
yeah,
a good
because
one.
I don't even think it's really going until it's not.
Yeah.
Then
You're just so
notice it.
used to it,
Yeah.
right? It's like that forced feedback. You
Yeah.
expect it.
Yeah.
It's like back in the day with GoldenEye and N64, right? I mean, it was pretty strong then on the Rumble there, but you enjoyed it, right?
Yeah.
Didn't feel right. You didn't connect with the game without it.
Yeah.
So-
It's that like haptic kind of feedback.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And with virtual technology, like that's gonna keep going even further. Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
really love the idea of like being able to wear like gloves or something and feel things
Yeah.
for real
Yeah.
in virtual technology.
Yeah.
So okay, Rumble Pad. That's our number 9. What's
Yeah.
we're up to number 10 now.
Yeah, number 10, Xbox Live kind of / DLC, kind of the online, whole
Online
online
component,
experience. Yeah.
Huge deal. Like finally, like one thing that PC gamers could boast over console gamers was being able to play online. And even though there were ways to play online with other systems, like Super Nintendo had a little.
What was that thing called? The X
I don't
Band
remember.
or
Oh,
something?
maybe.
Yeah.
It was.
I know
remember-
Genesis had something too.
Yeah, the same company
It,
made one
was,
for both.
yeah, there was Super Nintendo and Genesis had the same thing.
And I played Mortal Kombat.
It was like a
on it.
giant cartridge with like the phone cable hanging
Yeah,
out of
the
it.
phone cable.
Yeah.
And it gave you that first, taste of online gaming. But the thing about it was, you couldn't find anybody to play.
Right.
It was very.
Yeah, like we were trying to find people to play like that Weapon Lord game or whatever, because there were like certain games were compatible with it.
Yeah, not all games.
And
were
we would
compatible.
wait and
it's-
no one would come.
It was
there all
dead
day.
before it even got started
Yeah.
because not enough people bought it.
Yeah.
But with Xbox Live, for just a few dollars extra a month, you had this community of gamers that could get on. Like suddenly, you're creating chats.
Yeah. Matchmaking. Was a
Matchmaking
big one, yeah.
with Halo 2 was
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
changed the game. You
Yeah.
know, you can't have a game like that nowadays. You got your massively multiplayer games. Like Destiny's kind of like that.
I mean,
Right.
heck, they don't even really make games single player anymore.
Yeah.
That's true, and that's kind of the
It's
drawback.
like
in a way.
online only.
Online first.
If
Yeah.
it wasn't for Nintendo, couch co-oping would have been dead years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. There's stuff like in there are certain games you can't even play unless you're online.
Yeah.
Like Destiny, for example, you got to connect to the server to even play the game.
Yeah.
So if you don't have internet access or something, but with broadband, when it became a big thing in everybody's house, you could suddenly have things like Xbox Live
Yeah.
and DLC, which, we were kind of deciding.
DLC.
It's like the love or hate.
It depends. It depends on how you want to look at DLC. I prefer to look at DLC as a way to extend the life of a game.
I love the concept.
It's so gimmicky, though.
Games like Destiny keep the Destiny going by releasing DLC.
I think it's the way it's used, because I absolutely love the concept, but it's that the whole thing is marketing around that, to where they plan on, before the games even come out, we're gonna have
season passes,
this DLC, and they're scheduling
I never do season
DLC.
passes, by the way, ever.
Or like skins or special characters. Pay $5. Come on, guys.
But that's how they entice pre-orders nowadays too. Like, get a special skin for this that you'll never care about. That's as soon as you start playing the game, you trash anyway.
And it's also gotten to the point though that where the game is like, they're not even like quality control. I mean, we were talking about quality control earlier. That they're not even like so concerned about it. They'll release
the game to meet a point
buggy,
of release date
and then
patch it.
Well, we'll patch it later on. Yeah, that's awful. That I absolutely hate. That games are released so buggy because you can just patch it later on. It doesn't matter.
And everybody does it nowadays.
Did that start with Xbox Live on Xbox? Because I thought like
as long as there was a hard drive.
Yeah.
And internet connection, probably.
I think they did start with that.
Yeah, I mean, surely that. Yeah, you're right. It started with that, but I think it was really like around like
PlayStation 3 era.
Yeah, that
Xbox
era that
360.
they just kept declining and getting sloppier and sloppier, realizing
we'll
that,
release a broken game because we have a street date to hit.
Right.
And we know good and well that.
Like that,
even that new
Xbox
Final Fantasy
One
15 game
when it was. That Assassin's Creed game that came out on Xbox One, I forget which one it was, but whichever the launch one was.
Aren't they all the same?
Yeah, they are pretty much all. That's why I forget.
You mean the one where you jump from high up on the tower?
It's all a dream, right?
They had like all those graphical errors and everything. Where like
that was the one in France. I can't remember what.
It was just like, it got released like so awful. It was like so unplayable.
Yeah. It's a regular everyday occurrence now. Like, stuff for Switch is kind of guilty of that too. I'll buy a game and then set it aside and go like, well, I'll play it when it's patched.
They'll fix it later.
Yeah. I can't tell you the number of games that I've done that. And like, I just accept it now. It's just like the way it is.
Yeah, that's awful.
Probably the worst is No Man's Sky.
No,
from when that game was released to where it is now,
Good point.
It's completely different.
To their credit, though, they keep releasing free updates, and it's more like, I think, the game now. But by now, you've moved on.
I think they kind of have to save face.
They have
right?
to save face.
I mean, they were
because if they didn't,
burned on that.
Nobody would ever buy a game from them.
Yeah, I mean, because expansion packs were like always a thing with PC games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you didn't know, like,
new quests.
You didn't know buying that game knew that, hey, in X number of months, this expansion pack is already coming out down the road, like they do with DLCs, where they're already like, here's the season 1 pass.
I'm not crazy about the season
where
pass
they've scheduled these things before the games even come out.
And doesn't it feel like with Zelda Breath of the Wild, like most of these things could have just been in the game to begin with?
Yeah.
Maybe not so much the next like quest thing that's coming out.
I feel like they ran out of time, with that because they were under pressure to get it for Switch,
which is ridiculous because that game was in development for a long time.
Yeah.
But I was going to say that Final Fantasy 15 game was kind of notorious because they kept pushing it every year, push it. Well, they finally were just like, we gotta release it. And then the day you even got it, like you couldn't even play the game until you downloaded this like really big download, this patch. You couldn't even play it. Like you put the disc in, it wouldn't let you play it. You had to download the patch.
What happens
the
if you
term
didn't have
day
internet?
1 patch?
You couldn't play it.
You couldn't play the game.
Couldn't play the game. Ridiculous.
Yeah. Why is day 1 patch a term?
I know, right? And that's that's in our vernacular now.
Yeah.
Like that's just a thing. So
that should not be a thing.
It shouldn't be a thing. In a way, I'm glad that it is a thing because like you at least have hope that a game will maybe get better. Like Destiny, for example.
I am happy that you have this ability that you.
But it's not the same game from when it came out, right?
Yeah. Well, again, I think they just kind of released it before it was done.
Yeah.
And that game is way different than when it first came out. But I mean, to be fair, I really enjoyed it when it came out. Like, a lot of people complained.
Yeah,
I
it was great when it came out. I loved it when it came out. But then all the add-ons, I mean,
made it way better.
It made it way better, but it wasn't the same game.
Right. Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then, like, another legitimate reason, like, when they do balancing and stuff like that, like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you're working to keep making the game better. You're trying to keep the communities, like, when
and
they do
a lot of
things-
that balancing, like, you don't even know, like, in the testing, like, you're balancing some things in testing, but until it gets, like, out in the wild, I mean, it just blows up.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I get that,
true.
you know.
And people talk, like, events like, you know, Splatfests are really fun.
Yeah.
That's not DLC, but that's just, like,
It's
online
keeping it
Community
fresh.
events.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that keeps it fresh.
Keeps it
I like
fresh. And I think
Yeah.
that was to me, that's what DLC was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Keeping a game fresh. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's kind of gone down this nuts, like that microtransaction-y type road.
Oh, yeah.
Where they're just trying to flush more cash out of you.
Yeah.
And not really trying to improve or enhance the game. Just a way to make money off
Right.
it. But nevertheless, Xbox Live and DLC is part of our lives. And I think, for the most part, it's a good thing. Nick's not so sure.
Well, it's just if it would be used properly.
Yeah. When it's used properly, it's a great thing.
It can be a great thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We'll
All
see
right.
where it goes in the future.
But for sure, Xbox Live, we'll give that's a big thumbs
Yeah.
up.
That's,
DLC, we're a little meh. All right, so what's number 11? Let's get back to something we can all agree on is great.
All right. Well, wireless controllers.
Oh, God.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
I can't
Thank
imagine
goodness
they
for cutting the cord.
yeah.
no longer being tethered to your
Yeah.
controller.
I used to put like a little like colored stickers around the ends of the cords, like around the end where it plugged in, and the end like up by the controller, so you could look and be like, yeah, the blue one is player one. I got the blue one, you know, because they're so tangled up.
Yeah.
But just getting away from wires and the tangling, it's, you know, it's one of the best innovations.
Yeah.
It's
and
maybe in the top 5.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there were wireless controllers before this. Like I know
Well,
there
we were
was
gonna-
one on
Wavebird.
the NES.
Did you mention the Wavebird
I
already?
did not, and that's what I'm getting ready to mention.
Yeah,
Because you know, I even think I've seen an advertisement for like a wireless Atari 2600 controller.
Oh, my
wow.
God, serious?
I'm almost
I
positive.
remember the NES ones. I had one
Yeah,
for
I'm
that.
almost
Oh, yeah.
positive
And they were
I've seen
garbage.
an ad.
The infrared ones.
Infrared
yeah.
line of sight.
Yeah.
Like you had to practically be like right up on it.
yeah,
But I
the-
wasn't on a cord.
The
Yeah.
It
Wavebird,
ate
I
batteries
think,
like
Oh,
crazy.
yeah.
the Wavebird, I think, was the first to really successfully have a nice wireless controller.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was now just standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it became standard. I think Sony personally perfected it with the DualShock controllers.
Definitely. Yeah.
I love those DualShock controllers. I mean, then, like 360 had some really nice controllers, but
Yeah.
now, can you imagine getting a system nowadays with a cord?
Yeah.
Like, what am I, a caveman? We were talking about the RetroPie stuff, and one of our friends, Chris, was like, "Well, you can use a 360 with the cord." And it was like, "No, I don't,
Yeah, because he had mentioned using the 360 controller, and
Yeah.
I'm like, well, but in order to do that, don't I have to get that dongle, that USB dongle for it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, I use mine with the wire.
What? Are you crazy? Oh my God. With the Wavebird, and then later on, like we talk about some of this, it's just a standard thing. It's the D-pad, it's the shoulder button, it's the rumble technology.
Yep.
It's ubiquitous. Mm-hmm. You know, you just can't imagine life without a wireless connection. And it seems like a very simple thing.
Yeah.
But I won't play with a wired controller anymore. Like, I hate that NES Classic has that little short
So
wire.
short.
Oh, man, that's
Gosh.
ridiculous.
It's like the old Famicom. It's so short.
Oh my
and
God.
it's shorter than the original Nintendo controller was.
What was up with that?
I don't know.
I think the SNES Classics have longer wires, a little bit, not
Hopefully.
much, not much. But thank goodness for those 8-bit DOE things or whatever. They're
Yeah.
wireless, so
Yeah.
you can get around it. But right away we're looking for ways to get around those short wires.
Yeah.
Like, well, is there an adapter I can buy to put on there and make it wireless?
Yeah.
I can't play this. I don't care if it was like that back in '85 or not. Forget it. So wireless controllers. I mean, what else can you say about that?
Yeah.
We all
They're
agree
great. Yeah.
that it's essential nowadays.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Must have.
Yep. All right, and rounding up our list,
All right,
number 12.
number 12, that it might be kind of gimmicky, but I mean, you got to admit that it was an innovation that definitely sold consoles. Motion control.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, love them or hate them.
Yeah.
Definitely sold
the
Wii.
waggle games.
Yeah. Bowling.
Bowling is great. The
Yeah.
best use of motion controls, in my opinion.
Yep.
That game is still super fun to play. It really does a good job of like registering.
Now there are times where motion control is great, and like on the Wii version of like Metroid Prime, where it would have like the motion.
Oh yeah, the improved version of it.
And you're using the nunchuck to run around, but you're aiming with the motion control.
Yeah.
That's
I
great.
mean, that is absolutely the best way, and they did that with Resident Evil 4 on the Wii also.
That's right. Yeah,
that's definitely the best
That's
way to play
cool.
that.
I hate it when Nintendo would really
when
push
there's
it on
some
you.
sort of gimmick
Like
that
with,
forces
like
it
Zelda
on
games.
Yeah,
Well, and
they
like,
kind of messed the Zelda game up.
yeah, where
with
you're
that.
slicing. Now,
Yeah.
I mean, admittedly, like the slicing on Zelda with Skyward Sword was better, but I still just don't.
It's
give
fun
me,
for like a second, and then you're just like, I don't
A
want
chore,
to play
right?
this.
It's a chore. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want that in my Zelda games, and like that Street Fighter game that's on the Switch. Where it's got
Oh
like
my
that
God,
mode,
the
the
busted
Hadouken like
Hadoukens.
mode where you hold the two things and you're doing like Hadoukens.
It doesn't-
Yeah, I tried that out once and it's awful.
All
It's
I've
just
heard is
absolutely
how
awful.
terrible it is.
And yeah, I hate it.
And that, how can
when,
you sell that as a feature? Like, you made that game, you know that doesn't work well.
Feature gimmick.
Yeah, gimmick. And
Yeah.
gimmick, and it comes up a lot when people talk about motion
When it
controls.
works-
And Kinects.
Especially with Nintendo.
Well,
That's pretty
Xbox,
common, right?
They included that Kinect accessory, which was supposed to be like the central hub of like an
Oh
Xbox
yeah,
One.
yeah,
And and they have good intentions, I think,
yeah,
to when they release these things, but then they just drop support on them so much,
Yeah.
so fast.
yeah.
But the Wiimotes, it made the Wii. It became
Right.
it was if it wasn't for the motion controls, Granny wasn't going to be playing the Wii.
Right. Exactly.
when it works, but don't force it on us.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
with Mario Kart Wii. Well, now you got to hold the steering
No,
wheel in the
yeah,
air and
Never. No, it was no fun. I did not like that. And I don't know if I'm just a lazy gamer, but it just doesn't enhance. It doesn't enhance. And that's the thing. Does it enhance gameplay like a Rumble does? Something that's subtle or wireless, which just cuts the cord.
It enhances with the first-person shooter games.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. Which there weren't enough on the Wii or the the Wii U. It's just surprising. It's like it had the perfect controls for it.
And
But
and
not
you know
enough
it
games.
was really neat when somebody's playing like Super Mario Galaxy. And
Oh, yeah.
and a second player is just kind of
Yeah,
like
that was-
chilling
Gave you
out
something to
watching,
do.
and they can like poke at point at the little gems.
Yeah, if you had like a little
And-
kid or something that wanted to play, you could hand him a
Yeah,
second
and so that was
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
But
for
don't-
sports games it made sense, and for like the shooter type stuff
Yeah.
for Metroid Prime makes
But don't
sense.
Golf
force it
games,
on.
yeah, definitely with sports.
Yeah, it really shined with the different versions of like Wii Resort, Wii Sports.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like the archery on that Wii Resort Plus or whatever the second one was called.
Yeah, and they enhanced
that was
them,
really
like
fun.
they came out with a like version 2 of motion controls.
Yeah, that
which-
was really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
They had the add-on and then the updated Wiimote.
and it made a difference.
Oh,
so.
definitely, yeah.
But I mean, Nintendo's raised the white flag. They still have sort of capabilities on the Switch,
Yeah.
but it seems as though motion controls has had its day. And
Yeah.
it's
And on the Wii U, it was pretty much phased out. It was in the gamepad a little bit.
I think
But-
the Wii U was the motion controls might have been like one of the sticking points of why it failed. Just
I think
personally.
so, yeah.
There was such a stigma by then.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of crappy games for the Wii. It had like a App Store type feel for a while.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 You would go in the GameStop and it'd just be like garbage titles
Walls
everywhere.
of garbage. A
Yeah,
handful
absolutely.
of quality games.
Yeah.
And all of which had their own plastic attachment.
Oh yeah, tennis rackets. You name it. Guns.
I tried to forget that era.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
It had its fun times, but it also was kind of
yeah.
Because you couldn't just swing the Wii remote. you had to
it
stick a
look like
plastic
tennis
attachment
racket, yeah.
on it.
I'm playing tennis for real. That's right. All right.
Look, Mom.
And then
Grandma's playing.
There was that Wii balance thing that was
Oh,
out there.
yeah.
People wanted to
Yeah.
exercise. Remember
Wii
Nintendo
Fit.
really tried to make a big deal out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they even
The
did
Reggie,
like
my body
the
is
plus
ready.
version
That
of
famous
that.
meme.
There was like the Wii Fit and then Wii Fit Plus. They upgraded that too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I could appreciate. I mean, it did get people moving. There were people that were online talking about how they lost weight solely from playing Wii.
Yeah.
So like
it did some stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't all bad.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was what everybody wanted. Like,
right.
Ooh, imagine what this would be like with motion controls. Like we get really excited. They did a good job selling us that feature. But with virtual reality, like it's essential too, because like PlayStation has those Move controllers. You have to. I mean, that's not like an essential thing for virtual reality in general, but it's neat to see them repurpose motion controllers somehow to make it work with virtual reality.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think virtual reality would be much better when they get more along the lines with like the Hive or the Vive, not the Hive, those controllers.
Yeah.
It'll be much better when they get there.
Yeah.
I said I wasn't going to shout out virtual reality, but I guess we should go ahead and shout it out.
Well, it did kind of
augmented reality and virtual reality. It's
Yeah.
more of like it's better now. Like virtual reality is something that gaming companies have been chasing for many years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're at a point where you can actually get fun virtual reality experiences. Like I have a PSVR. You've played the Vive. Martin, have you experienced
I have done some VR stuff, yeah.
Yeah. It's really cool. I mean, like, finally I feel immersed in a game with VR, whereas I've never really felt immersed.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really want to play that Mario Kart VR thing they have over in Japan.
Oh, yeah.
That looks so
wow, I haven't heard of
cool.
that.
Yeah, it's a game made for the Vive. And, they have the little carts you can sit in. They always get the cool stuff in Japan.
Yeah, of course.
But it looks really cool. If you get a chance to like Google some of the footage of that,
Oh, yeah.
you'll want to play it too. It looks fun. But that's a really solid 12 or 15 or so innovations.
Wow, yeah.
And we've come a long way from the Atari 2600. The NES really kicked up the innovations, and we just kept going. Nintendo really was an innovative company.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And they continue to do that.
Yeah, still are.
They're always pushing.
Definitely.
Where I feel like Microsoft and PlayStation, Sony, like they just keep going with that status quo. Sony is taking a big chance with PSVR, so that's not fair.
Yeah.
And Microsoft's responsible for Xbox Live.
Yeah.
But Nintendo constantly pushes.
Yeah, like Nintendo with the Switch. I mean, I think it's so innovative, and you could argue that the design of the controller has suffered a little bit because of wanting to do this, but being able to split the controller in half to turn it on its side, and here's two controllers. Now I have a controller, you have a controller.
Time will tell, if people a year from now still are putting it in tabletop mode and handing off the Joy-Con and playing. Mm-hmm. Time will tell if people will do that anymore, or if they'll just use it like a handheld, which is basically what.
Or just mainly dock it.
I mean,
mainly dock it.
Yeah.
I think
but
that's
it's your
really
choice.
cool. Like
That's
right.
If I'm out there, playing it, and I'm playing Street Fighter, whatever, and somebody comes up and they see me and they're interested, and I'm like, well, here, take it apart and set it up, and here's a controller, and let's play.
I have a feeling that with how big the Switch has become in such a short period of time, which is really an underdog story. Like nobody really believed in it, but now everybody wants it. You're going to start seeing other companies start to think about creating their own hybrid, consoles.
Yeah.
Sony, I have a feeling, especially Sony, because the Vita was, like the end of their line of handhelds.
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, the Vita had a lot of potential.
It did. I like the Vita.
Oh, yeah.
I have one, and
it's a quality system.
I really enjoyed being able to stream your games. Like it was cool to play Destiny at work, because you could connect to it, and it had its limitations, of course, but. I could see Sony going, well, let's try another console. Like we'll have our flagship PlayStation, but we'll also have like a hybrid, and I think people are going to want to see that.
Yeah.
So Nintendo once again is just like pushing things.
Do you think it'd be Sony to do that, or be maybe Microsoft?
I don't think Microsoft will. I think Microsoft's more than happy to stick with their Windows 10 and their Xbox.
Yeah.
And I think if Microsoft could just get away with either one of those two, they would.
Yeah.
But I think they're just not going to abandon the console because they've invested so much in it.
Yeah.
I do not see them trying to get involved into a handheld or a hybrid.
But I think if they would, it would be just like on their Windows Phone. That would be their
or
handheld.
like a Surface device or something.
Yeah. I don't think they would put out.
And they've
like
already
separate...
you can play on your through Windows
streaming
10. You can stream it. Yeah. I think Sony would be the one to do it. And
well, they've got the experience with PSP and Vita, right?
Yeah, they do, and they have, like you said, they have experience,
Yeah.
and they certainly have the war chest to do it. They
Sure,
got
yeah.
a lot of money.
Yeah.
Sony hasn't had PlayStation 3 was like their one big misstep, and it
Right.
kind of gained momentum towards the end.
They
It's
came
like-
back.
It came back. So yeah, I think Sony would be the one. I could totally see Sony like surprising people and be like, "Here's our hybrid," and it'll blow away the Switch, and then you'll have that division once again of Nintendo and Sony people going at. Because I mean, right now Switch is so unique. It's accepted to say, well, I'm going to play certain games on my PlayStation or my Xbox, and I'm going to have this whole unique experience on my Switch. But soon as Sony gets involved or somebody, you're going to start seeing the Switch decline again, because it'll be, as Nintendo often does, they're chasing. You know, they're limited in their power, and a lot of times they don't have the most powerful console.
Well, I think that's intentional, right? I mean, if you
Is
look
it?
at all,
I mean,
with the Wii, the Wii U, the GameCube, I mean, I think they try to get, like the cheaper graphics chips, right? So they're looking to probably make a little bit more money.
I guess you're
on the
right.
systems.
They have said. I mean, they're not interested in being like the highest. You know, to like leave that to Sony and Microsoft. But fans want them to.
Fans definitely
There's
do.
no doubt that a fan would be like, I will buy a souped up version of a Switch today if you released it.
Yeah.
So, and I have no doubt that there will be a Switch replacement in a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
2019, by the time 2019 comes along, we'll all be playing on a different Switch. So that's just my prediction.
Yep.
Okay, well, that's been our show. If I don't know if we'd mentioned anything that would require photos from. You said you might have some E3 photos, not Booth Babes, but of some other things.
We'll see what I locate.
Yeah, but check out our Facebook page for anything that we can think of. We'll put up on there. Nick's usually really good about that with his famed museum.
Yeah.
That's the Bitgeeks, and check us out there. Martin, thanks again for showing.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Hoping you on future episodes. It's been really fun.
Yeah, it's been fun. Yeah.
I've been your host, Ron Avis.
I'm Nick Wright.
I'm Martin Reimer.
We'll see you next time.